effectively. That is the point. That is the point we need to interrogate.
I like your point. I like your position. And yes, you know, some people would agree with what you have said, Saka.
Yes.
That, you know, the opportunity is not given even from the start, and so they cannot rise to that point where they can compete.
But my question is, where is the start?
I'm starting with education. I started with education.
He just started with education. From the home front, say you have a male and a female child, and then you give the male child education.
From the beginning, I started.
Sorry, madam, let me know. In most parts of Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, where I come from, and as a Muslim, boys will have more opportunity to have Western education than girls, because girls at an early age are supposed to get married.
Saka, please respond.
And then they are going to the same market.
So let's look at it from this angle. Do we have a statistic do we have the figure to back up what we have just said? I am an educationist. I am the dean of a university faculty. I am the head of department of 2 departments. I am an associate professor. I have been around campuses. I have seen the number of women who are in schools today. See, when we pick these issues and isolate and pick a particular point in history to start the conversation from, we will get it all wrong. We're not saying that structurally things are not in place that tends to undermine women. That's not the point here. But when you talk about education and say from the start, women were giving education, men were giving education as opposed to their female counterparts, that's a complete fallacy. It's out of place. Let's look at it. When did Western education come into Nigeria, officially speaking? In the Welfarist Act of 1945, under the Richards Constitution, we began to demand across board on the African continent to say, let's have, look, colonial powers, we cannot continue this way. You must give us access to education. And so, of course, the colonial powers decided to yield, and they set up the schools. The first school that was set up on the African continent was the Yaba School. The second was the Makerere in Uganda. The proportion of women to men that were given admission into schools was 7-3. Go and find out. History is there. So that's why I'm saying, where is the beginning?
Have we sustained that?
Well, understand me. I am still coming to this recent point. Where is the beginning? When the first shade of feminism, the struggle for feminism, of course, if your question, again, let's get this right for the viewers, for the sake of the viewers. If the question here is, am I a feminist? I am not only a feminist. I urge all men ought to be feminists. If feminism is about respecting and valuing and honoring womanhood, then all men ought to be feminists. But if feminism is about the strands and shades and types of feminism that the world has seen, then that's a confusion. In 1830, the first strand of feminism came about. We call them the waves. From 1830 to 1930, we had the first wave of feminism. 1930 to 1950, we had the second wave of feminism. And from 1950 up till today, what we have had is a conjuncture of people coming together to say, we're delivering feminism, either from the radicalist school of thought or the liberal school of thought or what is called the intersectional school of thought today. And ask me, they are confused. The intersectional feminism was advanced in 2001 by a man. And what was he agitating for? If men can walk around with flap shirts, why can't women do the same? This was a man who was found walking around the entire Europe with just a hat and a pair of boots on. And it was said, allow him, it is his fundamental human right. He's a humanist. Now, back to my point. You see, in 1830, when the agitation started by the wife of John Stuart Mill to say, give us right to vote, what were they demanding for? Right to vote. That was the first condition that gave birth to what we realize today as feminism. The United States, which is seen as the most advanced democracy in the world today, did not adopt that, not until after 50, 60 to 100 years after that. The women who continue to agitate in the United States are not educated in the sense of education. If westernization is what you're calling education, they were not educated in that context. So it meant that they did not work in banks, as my brother here has said, and did not work in professional places, so they did not have access to money. So the women who conducted and contested elections from the period of Margaret Ekpo in this country worked and had access to that sort of wealth. So the point being made here is, yes, these structural issues are there that tends to undermine women. But again, I've given you the point and I've countered the point of education. Sustaining it is what you asked. From that period of 1945 up till the period after independence, the economy was in the hands of women. How did it live? We adopted what was called the Structural Adjustment Program. And even before the Structural Adjustment Program, and ask me, who were the people who created the Structural Adjustment Program? It was the Blake and Blair Extra Parliamentary Committee in the United Kingdom that led to that, dominated by women. You see, if you're going to go back into history and look at the global foundation of political economy, you will come to understand that from the primitive age of human, it has always been a patriarchal society. But over time, societies have changed. They have advanced. Not necessarily because of the democratization process. Because as I speak to you, Qatar is a republican monarchy. And as I speak to you, they have a legislature, which is mostly dominant, women dominant. 29% of people in parliament in Rwanda are women. Rwanda, when did they revert to democracy? Since when did the United States start democracy? So you see, you cannot speak in isolation.
So are you saying there's something wrong with the Nigerian woman?
No, not the Nigerian woman. You see, when you make these inferences, you're making a wrong submission.
No, I want you to come out clear, because we want to get it right.
Understand me.
I'm a woman, and I think that a lot of women who are watching you now...
Women are there. Women are out there. But we're saying we're urging them to come out more, right? Isn't that the question here?
Yes.
I was saying the representation of women with respect to those seeking public office is low. And we're saying let's have more women come on board. But the question here is about how do we go about it? When I talked about capacity earlier, mind you, this is to correct the notion. I said we should not be focused on sexes as much as we should be focused on capacity. The capacity of the woman to deliver and the capacity of the man to deliver is the first point of call. It is not about the sex of the woman or the sex of the man. And saying that women, men have more access to, I think there was a second point you raised, was it access to funds or something? Yeah, that is absolutely right. Why? Because the structural adjustment program took the economy from the hands of women and put it in the hands of men who were better thieves. Right? So basically, these are some of the structural issues. I am trying to take us into history because he went into history to try to justify some of the things that we find playing out today. Not to say women are docile or women do not have the capacity. When I told you about women representation in with respect to voters in Kano, why wasn't that a question? It wasn't a question because it wasn't about power tussle. I had just given you a statistic that the number of newly registered voters in Kano has over 65%.
But the overall statistics given by INEC, we have fewer women who are actually registered voters in this country at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. But then we're talking of, that's why I limited my talk to the newly registered voters to say this is the issue going on. But then again, of course, remember earlier what I said. I said it is imperative that we begin to get more women involved into the system, that we begin to get women, not by creating laws, because obviously the laws are in place. Not by saying women, look, there is nowhere you're going to go to and people will take money and give to you and say go and contest election. It's a struggle between men and women. And the summation of this is this, that we are all a part of a system that has been created to put women in position of obscurantism. Remember what happened in the 1950s with the Martin Luther King movement in the United States?
Yes.
This was exactly how they were able to, manipulate the thought process of women and put them in that position of obscurantism, of superstition, of servitude. Black women in particular. Because, of course, the white women were a part of the elites, part of the establishment. And so there was no way they could basically subdue them. And this is exactly what we're faced with here. And so what I am saying, the long and short of what I'm saying is women have the capacity as much as men do. There are thieves among women as much as there are among men in this country and all over the world. And so I am saying the issue of should a woman come, well, we continue to reinforce that. What we are doing, like he rightly mentioned, there was a day I was having a conversation with Her Excellency, Mrs. Mariam Abacha, and I asked her a question. Why did you even create the Ministry of Women Affairs? And she said, well, to give women a base to be able to mobilize. And I said, no, you would have created a Ministry of Men Affairs as well. Because what you have done is that you have put women in that position of political incapacity. To say you are second class, so you are always going to be asking. I have never said here in the course of our conversation that women are demanding for, I equated that with what is happening to young people as an example. But there are a lot of women who are performing exceedingly well in different areas of endeavor, aside politics. It is only when the conversation comes into the political space, that's when we get here.
I like the position that Saka took while you were talking. He just changed position. He stayed this way all through. And I'm sure he has so much to say. I will give him the time, because I'm gender sensitive, although I'm a woman. Yes. And I want Saka to respond because he's speaking for the women. Let's be truthful.
I don't have much to say much longer.
I will come to you. I'll come to you in a bit. I'll come to you in a bit quickly. I have a woman who is standing by in the heartbeat of the nation, Udwak Achibong, my colleague. She's in Benin City, and I think she has an update for me from the Collation Center right there. Udwak, what's happening in the Asian city?
Yes, I'm right here at Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC headquarters in Benin City. And it is where we have the Edo State Collation Center. And right inside there, we already have people waiting. Of course, you know, recognized number of persons are supposed to be here. And so already we have some party agents, we have collation officers, electoral officers, and the media. They're already seated here waiting for when the collation will commence. But it's yet to commence. A few minutes ago, the head of voter education and publicity, Timothy Warrenwe, addressed the people already seated. He said so far 4 local government areas have sent in their results, talking about Esang Central, talking about Onwan West, talking about Igwebeng and Ego. These are the 4 local governments that have sent in their results. And so any moment from now, he told the people that the coalition exercise will commence. They should all be patient, knowing that whatever time they spend here is a sacrifice for the good of the nation. And of course, he rightly said that soon to join the exercise when it will commence will be heads of security outfits in the state, talking about the DSS, the police, the NSCDC, the Nigerian army.
Okay.
That's the situation for now.
All right, many thanks, Udwaka, for that update. I know that you are in the collation center, but what's the mood in the city? Do you have update from our colleagues who are in other parts of the city? What's the mood like at the moment? Because I can see the collation center is...
Yes, the mood has been calm, because already, you know, Edo State was affected, just like INEC said that some states' election will continue this Sunday, because there was reports of violence in 1 or 2 places, so those states was affected. But however, these places' elections really went on today, and from what we got in from our reporters from the field, they really went and monitored these elections, and at the end of the day, they reported some that are the local government collation centers. They sent in that results have already been announced over there, and from what you know, that those ones that have already been concluded at the local government stage have been brought into the coalition center here at the INEC headquarters in Benin City. That's when I told you that 4 have already sent in their results, 4 local governments out of the 18 local government areas. So the situation here in Benin City is calm. And the voters have done their civic responsibility. And we expect that at the end of the day, Edo State Coalition Center will commence the local government by local government coalition.
All right, many thanks, Udwak, for that update. I think when I come next to you, I would like to find out what the situation is like in the 3 local government areas where election was postponed till March 11. I would like to know how the people there are reacting to the pronouncement by the INEC chairman yesterday, and what the situation is like in those particular local governments. You're in Benin City, quite far away from those local governments, I can understand, but I'll give you some time to find out that update, and then when we come back to you, we'd like to know how the people are reacting to that. Thank you so much, Udwak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, we'll get back to the conversation. So Saka, you say you do not have much to say, but I think we should just round off this gender issue so we'll talk about other issues.
So
there are
that we
actually
can
a number
go
of
to
issues we need to trash.
Yeah,
yes.
Actually, I was thinking I was just going to talk about women in relation to 2023 general elections, but unfortunately we have been pushed to speak of other things that are probably not much equipped about them. Now, the only question I want to ask now, because we are made up of our cultures, we are made up, what we are now is part of what we learned from our environment. We are built to what we are now from the surrounding where we grow up. I asked somebody, I said, you are from Jos? Say yes. When will a woman become the Bombwan Jos?
Culture wouldn't allow that, likely.
What is culture? Because you have been trained to know that the traditional and political, because without colonialism, the political head of Jos is the Bongon Jos, and women were completely excluded. And till today, people will grow up to know that women cannot hold political leadership. And it counts. Your orientation, your environment, your culture, your upbringing, your environment, all of them will contribute to what you become eventually.
And then in some climes, when women venture into politics, they say they are not properly trained. That's why they are venturing into a man's field.
The head of corporate affairs of Guinness Nigeria Limited, one of the biggest corporate organizations in Nigeria, was a woman from the Igbo part of Delta State. And she went to their village meetings they hold in Lagos, weekly or monthly. And the oldest person there ought to be the one to break the collar. So she said, she is the oldest.
But she cannot.
No, it's that she is entitled to break the collar.
But they told her she cannot.
They told her it is not possible, that women cannot touch collar where men are. Women cannot touch collar where men are. The collar hears only the voice of men, not the voice of women. If you have grown up in that culture, your political ambition has been divided already. I don't want to mention a particular town in Bauchi State. Usually, it is the eldest child of the emir most likely that will become the next emir if the emir dies. Unfortunately, this was a medical doctor, a professor, who was the first child of the emir. When the emir died, her youngest brother, who was squatting in her boys' quarter, became the emir. And this matters. It's not just to her. All other women around and guests will hear that you dare not say you want to become a leader. And these are the things that impact. It's not a long history. We just need to look at our environment to discover how women have been suppressed, that has translated into modern political suppression.
Let me quickly add to what Sakai is trying to say. The reason why, just very quickly, yes. I'll allow you to continue. I'm just trying to bring an intervention here. Under Abraham Lincoln in 1886 in the United States, part of what Lincoln was fighting for, the abolition of slavery in the United States, part of that, this was when democracy was already in play, remember. Lincoln was in Congress agitating for the rights of black people, black men, equal rights. And what happened in the same United States Congress? The leader of the Democratic Party at the time, because obviously Lincoln was a Republican, stood up. And you know what he said? He said, why this legislation? We are fighting for women's right to vote. And sorry, he said, we're fighting for equal rights for black men and white men. After this, what comes? Right for women to vote? You know what happened in Congress? People spat on the ground and stepped on it. In Congress in the United States. So what am I saying? He's talking about a traditional society that has emerged from this traditional setting. Nigeria, before the advent of colonialism, was a completely traditional society, right?
Every community in the world was traditional before it became modern.
Yes, and so I'm equating this society that...
England as today is still traditional. It's still traditional today.
Okay, I think we'll leave this issue at that point. I think the point has been made, and yes, I just hope that things will change.
So maybe we need to go back to the fact that we have too many few women contesting the 2023 election.
And let's advocate for more women.
And we're asking that this change.
So both of you agree that we should advocate for more women in the political space. Yes. So that means we can leave the conversation as regards gender at that particular point. When we'll go to Asaba now, in Delta State. That's the big heart. When we are done with my colleague in Delta, we'll talk about other issues. I want us to talk about security when it comes to our electoral process. That's a key issue and one of the factors that actually affects apathy, how fair or free the electoral process actually is. So we'll talk about that once we are done with Asaba, Ifeoma Okafor is right there, and Delta State, in case you do not know, actually has 2,473 2,473,924 PVCs collected. So it means that that state actually has a big say as far as this election is concerned. So Ifeoma, what's the situation like where you are, and what do you want us to know?
See, tell Domsat to send it to this
Ifeoma, I can see that you're in a room. Could you tell us exactly what is happening there?
Domsat seen our signal. They should inform news that they have seen our signal.
Ifeoma Okafor, we are on you. If you can hear me, what's the situation like where you are? What exactly is happening in that room? And, okay, well, it looks like Ifeoma is... All right, so it looks like we're trying to still get things sorted out. I'm sure once that connection is done properly, we would get back to Ifeoma in Asaba. All right, let's join another of my colleague who is... Okay, well, it looks like we'll get all of that sorted out, and we'll join some of my colleagues who are in different locations. Most of them are at collation centers at the moment, just so that we can get results real time as they come in. So, Mukhtar, I'll come to you now. You know, at the start of this conversation, we talked about the issues that we face in our electoral process and how we can get it right and all of that. I would like us to talk about security, but maybe we should leave that for now. We'll talk about other issues. You talked about the credibility of people that have been engaged for the electoral process. In your own view, or if you were to prescribe to the Independent National Electoral Commission, how do you think they should come about those who handle logistics? Because we have agreed that logistics, you know, getting logistics on ground on election day is one of the major issues really affecting our electoral process. So what process do you think INEC should take in engaging contractors for this job? And then what should be done as regards ensuring that they do the needful? And if they don't, should there be sanctions or something like that, just so that it doesn't repeat itself again? Because this has continued. It's now a trend. Yeah. So could you respond to that?
Yeah, well, I think I am hoping that in elections to come, we will have moved past all of these issues, and as a matter of fact, that technology would have overwhelmed the entire process, such that we don't need to be talking about how voting materials will get to certain location on time and so on and so forth. But beyond that, assuming that all things stay equal, I think what INEC needs to do is to ensure that, well, first and foremost, we need to also look at the issue of the fund and along what line the fund is going to be distributed. Because if INEC is receiving fund and we do not even understand how this money is being spent, then of course we will not be able to understand exactly or speak to what issues can be dealt with where and how. And so I think it is important that INEC begins to focus more on spending on utility, meaning that there's the need to ensure that INEC has sufficient vehicular provision on how to, on their own, with the corresponding manpower, to be able to get the materials from where they take them to where they're about to use. I mean, from where they are to where they're about to be used. Because, I mean, imagine what just happened a few days ago. Some of the NYC officials that were recruited as ad hoc staff began to withdraw. And we have also seen pockets of police agitations, although subtly,
okay.
You know. Yeah.
So I think I'll just hold your thoughts on that here, just because we need to join my colleague who is ready for us with update from the land of equity. Iyabade, can we hear you, please? You're in Birini, Kebbi. What's the situation like?
Yes, thank you for joining us at Benin, Kebbi, and it has been peaceful, unusually peaceful. The elections took place yesterday in all the centers. Although election materials did not get to the voting centers on time, all elections were concluded yesterday. Presently, counting has been concluded at the ward levels, and they have moved to the local government levels. Some local governments have concluded their counting and are yet to get to the INEC headquarters. And for Kogi Central, collation and counting has been concluded, but results are yet to be announced. For Kogi North, collation and counting is still ongoing at the local government headquarters. Also at the headquarters of Kogi South, counting and collation is still ongoing, and we are all awaiting results. I am in the situation room of the INEC headquarters here, and everyone is waiting. The security agencies and other stakeholders, the media, the party agents, everyone is represented here, and we are all waiting for the results to come in.
Okay, the situation room of INEC headquarters. So, Yabade Olorunshola, if I get you correctly, is that where we're going to hear the pronouncement of what transpired yesterday at the polls in Kogi?
Actually, a collation center has been organized downstairs, and it is not yet opened. But stakeholders are all sitting here waiting for the place to be open, and then we all move down to the collation.
Spending needs to go down that way. And of course, it is not enough to have infrastructure. There is also the need to have a corresponding human capacity to be able to also man the infrastructure as well. So I am sure if that is done, the issues around logistics, the issues around delivering the materials will wane down a lot. And there's a need also for INEC to also take the sex along. Because when you look at it, it is only somebody in Bayelsa who understands the terrain of Bayelsa. And so people like that should be brought on board as well to be able to ensure that these things are done. But we can only do what I have just said now if there is accountability on how resources are gotten, either from subvention, from the government, from donor agencies, and so on and so forth, so that at the end of all of this, all of Nigerians can see and, understand how exactly these monies are spent, where there are lapses, so that we can all contribute, because there is no one single person who has a solution to all of the problems. So I think accountability is very key, so that that also should constitute part of the post-election activity, so that INEC gives an entire record, a breakdown of everything that has happened. I quite understand that this is not just INEC issue alone. It's a systemic problem around here. We have often at times not held public officials to account with respect to how monies are spent and so on and so forth.
All right. Thank you, Mukhtar. I'll take you up on what you said about having people who understand the particular terrain, handle that terrain. There's issues have been raised as regards that these are the same people who go about sabotaging the process. They know areas maybe where they have interest, they concentrate on those areas, and then other areas are not attended to.
With respect to those who, for example, drive the cars and take materials.
Exactly, the same thing. So, but we'll talk about that. But now let's go to Asaba. I hear that my colleague Ifeoma Okafor is ready now. Ifeoma, in the big heart, what's happening? Okay. Well, it looks like Ifeoma is still not ready for me. I just hope that she will be ready as soon as possible so we can hear exactly what is going on in Asaba. So, Saka, I'd like you to respond to this question that I've asked. You've heard Mukhtar's submission about, what we should do as regards logistics, because that's like the main issue, slowing down the whole process.
I think, if you do the same thing every time and gives you a particular result, and you continue to do it, I expect to get a different result, then something is wrong. Logistics have been a recurring decimal in our electoral process, and that we are unable to solve it after 24 years means that something is really wrong. And I'll tell you what is wrong. There is over-centralization of INEC activities. INEC office in Calabar, if it needs this piece of table,
It has to come from Abuja.
it has to be bought in Abuja and sent to Calabar. That makes no sense. Next to that is the issue of sensitive materials and non-sensitive materials. There is nothing like that is sensitive. I have observed elections in Cote d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Mali, in Senegal, in Gambia, in Kenya. Electoral materials are electoral materials. They don't have that demarcation. And this is one of the, so sensitive materials cannot be supplied until a day or two before election. And then the logistic of distribution comes up. So we need to abandon it. We need to abandon it. So those are issues that can be dealt with humanly. Certain procurements that you are doing at the central office in Abuja should be devolved downwards. Of course, the reason why they have to do everything in Abuja is that the money that is to be chopped out of it, people in the head office have to chop it. All the directors and commissioners are there. That is the truth.
Are you? No. It will not be. You don't have that information.
It's an allegation I'm making. Let them bring somebody to deny it. That is not how they do procurement. I'm making it publicly. And my name is Saka Azimazi.
Okay,
I'm a lawyer, so
I'll hold you at that point.
So let us make sure that we decentralize their procurement procedure.
Okay.
One, and then their distribution, forget about sensitive or non-sensitive. The sensitive materials are being taken away in broad daylight in the afternoon.
Okay, Saka, let's just hold it at that point. I'll come back to you. But let's quickly go to Ifeoma now. Ifeoma is ready. She's in Asaba. Ifeoma, what's the latest?
Okay, this is INEC Collation Center in Asaba Delta State. Since morning, observers, party agents, and can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ifeoma.
Journalists can hear and brief people in their various polling units. But people are seen and nothing is.
Looks like
but I want to talk to one of the observers here to tell us his own feeling. Hello, sir.
Good afternoon.
What has been happening here since morning?
Okay, we've been here since morning, and nobody has come to say anything to us. We've been expecting the collation center to have opened since about 8 a.m., but it's almost 4 o'clock now, and the collation center is here to open. I guess I hear there's some elections still being conducted in some local government area in Warri. So we're still waiting. Anytime they are open, they are ready to open, we're here.
Thank you, sir. Before now, the Red briefed us on what is happening at the polling stations. Yes, he said that some polling units in Warri South are still voting. They're still voting because of violence. Let me talk to the INEC PRO to tell us the situation. Sir, what has been happening?
Well, as you can see, our collation is ready to begin to receive collated results from the local government areas, particularly with regard to presidential collations. Again, we are having to conduct elections today in some wards in Warri South, precisely 7 wards, with polling units numbering about 100. With regard to some of these polling units, election could not hold, arising from late arrival of materials and also disruption by criminal elements in those areas. So that is where we are presently as we speak.
For some polling units where there are no result sheets, what do you intend to do?
Well, like you heard the Honorable Rex said, where there are no result sheets, it has to be established that no results accompany the SPO to the field. Of course, that also presupposes that the respective EOs or affected EOs were not assigned result sheets from CBN at the point of distribution of election sensitive materials. So we need to do due diligence first to know exactly how come result sheets are not available at those PUs. But where it's been discovered that there were no result sheets from the beginning, like we heard the Rex said, we have what they call replacement copies, where they could be availed copies of replacement result sheets for the purpose of collating and making returns at the various levels of elections.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You have fed it off on the PRO INEC in Delta State, and that's the situation from here.
Thank you, Ifoma, for that update from Asaba, the Collation Center right there. Thank you so much for that update. And yes, of course, issues about, people still voting till this time, reason for the delay. That's a long wait, honestly, from 8 a.m. Till now, still waiting for collation to begin in some states of the Federation. We just hope that we'll get things tidy, even as the National Collation Center would kick off officially at 6 p.m. Today. And like the INEC chairman said, they need to get results from these states and, declaration of results at this state, and then they need to be transported to the